Well, hey guys, David here. So I'm back in Truth or Consequences where me and my wife are working. If you watch any of my other videos, you know that we're nurses, so that's why we're in New Mexico because we are traveling. But we do get time off, and that gives me time to go search for Forrest Finn's treasure. And I want to make just a quick video because I found out some new information, and Forrest has said that the most important clue is where warm waters halt. And he says if you don't figure out that clue, you don't have anything. So I was doing some research last night and I came across Forrest was friends with this man named Frank Waters. Now, Frank Waters lived in a little town that's just north of Taos, just maybe 4 or 5 miles from the Taos Pueblo. And the name of the town is Arroyo Seco. And I looked that up because I'm not fluent in Spanish, and that means dry creek. And what's significant about Frank Waters is he was a famous writer. And he wrote a book, and Forrest actually wrote the foreword to that book. And also, Forrest wrote another forward to a book where he talks about how Frank introduced him to this German painter, and Forrest loved it so much that he ended up buying like 250 paintings of this German painter. And what's interesting is when I was reading about this, Forrest referred to Frank Waters as his warm friend. So, Arroyo Seco. If you watch any of my other videos, you know I was in Taos just a couple of days ago up there searching around the El Salto Falls. Arroyo Seco is right there at the base of Mount Lucero at those falls. I truly believe that that is the key to figuring out this puzzle to this treasure. And, where warm waters halt. If Frank and Forrest were such good friends, and Frank died back in 1995, and he died at his house there in Arroyo Seco, and he's actually buried on his property, and his wife has also passed, and she's buried there with him. To me, I keep pondering if when Forrest was faced with his death, and I have some insight about this because, I'm a nurse and I deal with a lot of people passing, but we all know this. As you're lying there, especially Forrest, like he gets this cancer diagnosis, he knows that he's possibly dying. As you grow older, they say, life starts taking things away. So Forrest sees his friends dying and leaving out of his life as he's gotten older. And now here he has been given this possible death sentence with this disease. And I wonder if he crafted this poem as a way to, acknowledge his friends. And that's why I think where warm waters halt has nothing to do with, and I've looked at that too, trout fishing, all that thing. I believe that where warm waters halt is he's talking about his friend Frank, who passed away in Arroyo Seco. And what's really cool about it, and I don't mean that it's cool that he passed, but the clues line up to there. Because if you start in Arroyo Seco, where warm waters halt, and then you go in the canyon down, that leads you to the falls. Not too far, but too far to walk. The falls are right there in the town, so you're looking at maybe, going up the mountain 4 or 5 minutes. Below the home of Brown, I believe that's the Taos Pueblo, and I found out some other information. Forrest was also friends with a famous painter who was a Native American who lived at the Taos Pueblo, and by happenstance, his last name was Brown. No Place for the Meek. I think that has to do with the paranormal and the legends that surround Taos, the Taos Hum, different things like that. D.H. Lawrence's book about the woman who rode away. Up your creek without a paddle, that could be in reference to Arroyo Seco, the name of the town, which means dry riverbed. You ain't gonna be able to go up a creek in a boat if it's dry. Uh, you know, the end is drawing nigh because it's right there. The heavy loads and water high. I think that has to do with the 9 waterfalls that are there at El Salto. The heavy loads could be, I think that has reference to the treasure. And then the blaze. When we were there, we were on the lower level. I was talking to a friend of mine who I work with, and he's really interested in going out there maybe Monday or Tuesday. So I was looking at the weather, and the weather's supposed to be nice, like in the 60s. So we may make another trip out there Monday or Tuesday this coming. Because I think if I went out there with a male friend, even though I had my wife and my daughter last time, which I enjoyed, I love being with them and going up in the mountains. I love seeing my little girl be excited. But I think if I went out there with a friend, I could do a little more in-depth hiking. And I like to go up on top of the falls and go further up. And I really have a sneaking suspicion that that is where the treasure is. I don't know why, but I really feel that that place has a lot of meaning for Forrest. And I think that it has to do with when he was facing his own death, friends of his, Frank, this other gentleman, Brown, who lived within that very close area in proximity to one another. He see these people pass. Both of these men died in the late 90s. He didn't craft the poem and hide the treasure till 2010 or something like that. So I think that, facing his own mortality, seeing his friends pass, I think that, he really, the poem has more to do with his coping with his death and with the things that he's lost in his life. They always say that, when you're dying, you don't sit there and think about, you don't sit there and go, bring me my keys to my Mercedes. No, you want your friends and your family around you. And the other thing is that Lucero. Lucero can mean light, morning star, a blaze mark on a horse, and Forrest has referenced all these things. So, and Forrest has said that the poem, you're not supposed to look into all this stuff. He said that the poem is pretty much straightforward. You follow it step by step by step. And, if you start there at Arroyo Seco, where warm water's hot, Frank Waters, everything's right there. The canyon, the home of Brown, the water high, the up your creek without a paddle, the end is drawing nigh. It's all right there. It's within a 5 to 10 mile at the largest proximity, and, it could be why he said that people have been close to it, because it's in that area. And I think that the main thing, and now that I'm zeroed in on that area, the thing that I've been studying now is the blaze. I've been going over what blazes can mean. I've been thinking about blaze, blaze, blaze. Because I think that once you find the area, he says that, if you've been wise and found the blaze. And, I was even thinking, since he's referenced people, I even thought the blaze might be a person. And so I started looking around for people whose last names was Lucero. And what's funny about it is I actually found that there's a Dr. Stephen Lucero who works at the hospital, the only hospital in Taos. And what's funny about it is he's a urologist. And what did Forrest have? Kidney cancer. What do urologists deal with? Kidneys, And I was like, I wonder if the blaze is a person. And that's why Finn knows that the treasure's where it's at and that it's safe, because he gave it to this friend of his, and you're supposed to find this friend and go up there and say, hey, are you the blaze? And then he'll be like, yes, that's the key word. And boom, give you the treasure. I was thinking, well, maybe that's why he says, if you've been wise and found the blaze, because found is past tense. So it's like you already need to locate it before you find the treasure. So I was thinking maybe Lucero is a person and that the blaze is a person. But then as I read more about what Forrest has said, he did say that it's something that could last 1,000 years, and definitely a person ain't gonna last 1,000 years. But those rocks up there on that Lucero Peak, will last 1,000 years. And maybe it's a marking on a rock or something like that. I don't know. It's something that I really gotta think about more and study more. And like the main thing, and I'll tell anybody, you can be an armchair searcher, but until you have, boots on the ground and you're in the area that you feel is confident, it's really different. The forest is a gigantical place. It's hard to see. There's tons of trees and bushes and everything. So, that's why I kind of like to go up there with my friends so I don't have to pay so much attention to my daughter, because I always worry about her getting hurt or getting into something. That way I could be a little bit more, exploratory and try to discover or try to look around a little bit more. So, I don't know. I'll keep you updated. I hope you're enjoying these videos, Maybe I'll find something, but I'll keep studying and keep trying, and you guys give me comments. And like when you asked me I had some people make some comments on my last video where they were wanting, well, where did Forrest say that references? I'm telling you, I am not best friends with Forrest. I have to go by blogs and vlogs and videos on YouTube and articles I read, articles that were written, interviews he's done. I don't know. I don't know the man's mind. I don't know what he's done. Everything that I learn about him, I Google. And I just Google crazy things and try to come up with stuff. Just like last night when I found out about this Frank Waters, I was Googling, does Forrest Fenn have any friends in Taos? And boom, popped up about Frank Waters and Arroyo Seco and this gentleman named Brown that lived at the Taos Pueblo. So that's the only reason I find out information. I have no insights, besides what I do on my own research. So if you're out there searching, I wish you good luck. This is David, Zoe Zizzles. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. And I'll be back. Bye.